to learn a bit more details about them. Before we hop into the product itself, I want to take a look back at some of the standards DJI has set over the years, both in product safety and security, including 3-prop emergency landing, AirSense ADS-B, omnidirectional obstacle sensing, and then product security standards such as AES 256 encryption for transmission, SD card encryption, and more recently, offline updates as well. We're really excited about some of the new standards we will set with our latest aircraft, the M30 series. Launching alongside the M30 series, we have the H20N, Flight Hub 2, and DJI Dock. I'll be taking you through the first two today, the M30 series and H20N. You can see right here our current enterprise product line before this announcement, with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, the Phantom 4 series, and the Matrice 300 RTK, along with its various payloads that are available. You can see that the M30 series brings in flagship performance in a portable size in a few different models, along with the launch of DJI Flight Hub 2 and the H20N. So hopefully that makes sense to you, seeing just where this aircraft fits a need within the market. Bringing in power in portability is important, as we know there's many operators who want to take advantage of flagship features, but do have limited size. 3 models here. We have the M30 or Matrice 30, I like to say the full name, the M30T, and the M30 series dock version. One thing to note here is you cannot upgrade from a normal M30 or M30T to the dock version. First off today, we'll cover the flagship performance of the aircraft itself. 41-minute max flight time. Something to note here too is with something like the M300 series, when looking at that flight time, you don't have to deduct for adding the payload itself. Here, the payload itself built into the aircraft when calculating that 41-minute max flight time. 33-mile-an-hour wind resistance, 51-mile-an-hour max speed, and 23,000-foot service ceiling. The aircraft does have high altitude props that can be used if getting up to those higher altitude levels. The aircraft payload here comes with a laser rangefinder, 1,200 meter or about 3/4 mile detection range. Can calculate accuracy by plugging in the distance to a vertical surface in the formula there in the top left. On the top right, looking at the wide camera, 1/2-inch sensor, 12 megapixels with equivalent focal length of 24 millimeters, can shoot 4K 30 frames per second video. On the bottom left, the zoom camera is a 1/2-inch as well, 48 megapixel, 5 to 16 time optical zoom. We'll get into that in just a second here in more depth, along with the 200 time digital zoom. Shoots 8K images and a 4K 30 frames per second video. The thermal camera, 640 by 512, 40 millimeter equivalent focal length, and captures radiometric JPEG images. So looking at the 4-in-1 sensor here, built into the M30T aircraft, the M30 does not have the thermal camera, that being really the only difference between the two. On the right side there, you can see the green box showing exactly what the zoom camera is looking at. And as the operator zooms in, clearly seeing those nuts and bolts at about 20 meters or 65 feet in that case. Take one more look at that just to see the zoom capability. The payload itself does have a self-heating function to remove fog from the lens as well. If you have encountered that in the past with one of your cameras, is a nice feature to have. And note that when we're going from 1 to 5 times, that is digital zoom with the wide camera. And then when you're going from 5 times to 16 times zoom in the app, that's going to be optical zoom with the zoom camera. And then from there, looking at a 200 time maximum zoom. So getting into that here, we can go from 2 times to 20 times to 200 times. About a distance, about 2,200 feet there, you can see the laser rangefinder reading on the screen itself. We'll step it back to 20 times and 2 times and go forward one more time, just so you can get an idea of the zoom capability there. Able to see the stoplight and read the text on the sign. Quick change there, we'll show it to you one more time, but this is a new photo mode where you'd usually be able to switch to timed interval photo or panoramas before, which are still an option here with this aircraft and payload. You can now do a low light photo as well, calling it smart low light photo. So going back and forward one more time, you can see that imaging algorithm automatically adjusting based on the current light condition. So if you're dealing with some shadows, operating close to sunrise or sunset, and don't have ideal lighting, this is just one of the items this aircraft offers to allow you to operate it in really various conditions and lighting. The thermal camera itself also utilizes an AI-based thermal imaging enhancement algorithm where the resolution will be 1280 by 1024 when enabled. It is enabled by default. Once again, going back, you can see the difference there, and forward as is turned on. As we talked about before, flagship 640 by 512 resolution. You can process the thermal radiometric JPEGs with DJI Thermal Analysis tool. And then it also supports the DJI Thermal SDK if you're looking to analyze these photos in third-party software that have developed using the DJI Thermal SDK. Key point of the aircraft here obviously is the portability, and that comes into play with the compact design. Both arms fold in, has the ability to lock the gimbal. You can just twist it with your hand, the pitch upwards, and you hear a little click when you're able to get your hands on the aircraft itself. So good to use that if you're putting it in a backpack. The backpack pictured here on the right side is not a DJI backpack. We do not currently have a backpack offered with this drone itself. But if you're going off the aircraft dimensions there, you can see on the bottom left of the slides here, and looking at internal dimensions of a camera or drone backpack, there's a variety of options made by third parties that can keep the aircraft safe. You can see this example here, a backpack fitting multiple batteries, remote controller, and the drone itself. The drone with 2 batteries weighing in at 3.7 kilograms or 8.2 pounds. So a reasonable load as well to carry within the backpack in that smaller size. Not just is the aircraft smaller, but it is quicker to deploy. You can see the arm lock mechanism built into the aircraft itself there. So you don't have to necessarily screw the arms in when extended. It'll automatically lock when that landing gear is deployed. I'm sorry, not landing gear, but the arms are deployed. Jumping ahead of myself a bit there. The landing gear is built into the bottom of the aircraft, allowing you, once again, to get the aircraft up in under a minute. And my tests have been about 35 seconds on some, 45, 50 and others. Once again, depends on the operating environment, but quick deployment overall is a big feature here. The battery locking mechanism on the back of the aircraft ensures successful hot swapping. And then it also does not require a full payload calibration on startup. So all contributing to that quicker deployment. Once again, we talked about the ability to operate in different lighting conditions earlier. The aircraft also enables operations in tough weather conditions, able to fly in rain here, IP55 rating for the aircraft itself, and IP54 rating for the RC Plus, which is the remote controller that goes with the aircraft. We'll get into here shortly as well. -4 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit operating range for the aircraft itself. So we're really able to perform in a variety of tough conditions. Upgraded OcuSync 3 Enterprise transmission for the aircraft, which improves the anti-interference algorithm and provides 1080p FPV resolution. We'll note in regards to the transmission range, as you're operating it with interference in your environment, that transmission range does lower. So we have the official specs on our website, depending on what type of interference you're running into, the transmission range you can expect, a 9.3 mile being the maximum. For antenna design, you can see on the right side there, 2 additional antennas on the bottom right for better signal reception with 2 transmitting antennas and 4 receiving. Also improves the media download speed by 2 times with this aircraft and transmission system. So if looking to get media to the RC itself or upload it, speeding up that process, very important. Industry standard obstacle avoidance here with dual vision and a single infrared time of flight sensor on all 6 sides of the aircraft. You can see with my mouse here pointing to the TOF stands for time of flight sensor there in the middle and the visual on both sides. And you can see that's on all 6 sides of the aircraft. There it is on the right side. Within the pilot distance, you can customize the braking distance of the aircraft along with the warning distance. So you'll see within the application compass, if you were coming close to an object in your warning distance, it'll turn yellow, and then the aircraft will stop and it will be red at braking distance. Anti-collision beacons built into the aircraft as well. Redundant systems, including IMUs, barometers, RTK antennas, plus GNS modules, and the compasses. Safety features include the 3-prop emergency landing, DJI AirSense, which includes ADS-B in. The drone itself is not broadcasting ADS-B. Dual battery lock, we talked about that earlier, but you have a better picture of it now. These orange tabs here can push out. It'll unlock the battery, keeping the other battery locked for successful hot swapping and safety. The aircraft is also able to detect when the arms themselves are locked. So you can see these buttons here as the aircraft arm is deployed will come up. You can push them in to put the arm back into the aircraft. But nice thing here is you're not going to be able to take off unless you have the arms properly locked. And then within the pilot application itself, we have our health management system to provide you information on any maintenance or aircraft issues that should be attended to by you or our support team. Operating in low light, another feature here is an improved FPV camera for low light conditions. So you can see with the M30T on the bottom right of the screen recording here, how is very low light conditions there, but with the FPV camera can clearly make out the ground and skyline for navigation in nighttime conditions. Moving into elevated efficiency with both the DJI RC Plus and new Pilot 2 app. So before we get into things here, I think it's great to take a look at an operator in action here on some power lines close to my heart, where I got to start within the UAS industry. You can see ability to take photos on the screen itself or with the buttons. But what's really new here is see the L1, L2, and L3 on the left side, and R1, R2, R3 on the right side. And those correspond to actual commands within the Pilot 2 app itself. So you can see the ability to zoom in, zoom out, switch the camera, easily built into those buttons, or even drop a pin. You still have your 5D button on the right side under that control stick. Customize it to recenter gimbal pan, move the gimbal pan down, etc. And then on the back side, instead of having just 2 dials, we have a 3rd dial, which you can use for the zoom of the camera, and then also a C3 button as well. So you have 3 buttons on the back. On the top left, you're looking at your flight mode switch there. So you can do your normal P mode, the operator's in, you have sport mode, and then you have the option for ADI mode and tripod mode as well. You can see the aircraft in the top right. It is green right now. If you're using dual RCs, you would be able to press on that aircraft button to take control. Overall, you can see the feedback from operators who've used both the Sendence controller in the Crystal Sky with an M210 system, and the Smart Controller Enterprise with the M300 system, where we're trying to bring the best of both worlds and even more with this RC. The buttons for operations in cold conditions or just smoother operations overall, a little bit bigger screen, but still built into the RC itself. And then we still have our ports on top as well for HDMI, transferring data to a micro SD card, and USB ports for updates and charging. So you can see as well on the compass there, as the operator gets close to some braking distances or warning distances there, but really a good example of the improvements that this RC and the Pilot 2 app bring. Getting into some specific specs here, looking at a 7-inch screen, 1200 nit brightness, and also a glove-friendly screen as well, in addition to the buttons. 8 additional physical buttons in total for easier control access, an IP54 rating, which is really awesome to match or come very close to the drone at the IP55 rating, operating temperature of -4 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Capability of the 8-core chip delivers 4 times the CPU and 7 times the GPU power compared to the Smart Controller Enterprise. Have that dual RC capability you spoke of, where either pilot can take aircraft control or lock aircraft control. And then same idea with the gimbal, where either operator can take gimbal control. 6-hour battery life with the WB37. So perhaps have used with your Crystal Sky, Sendence, or Smart Controller Enterprise over the years. Same battery here. Goes in a little back door in the RC itself, can swap those in and out. And it has an internal battery as well. So WB37 combined with the internal battery gives you 6 hours. 4 antenna design for enhanced transmission, and then also dual detachable antennas with that MCX port. Hearing from operators who like to go within a command vehicle or trailer, or have a second RC within there to stream from the HDMI, or better internet source to push that stream or data out. So be able to detach the antennas, attach a wire, run that to a roof for easier operations overall. You can see the revamped enterprise flight interface here. You saw it a bit in that video. Here's the home screen, or at least half of it on the right side there, highlighting the ability in the top left to easily change your user settings, log in, log out, change security settings as well if you'd like to turn on something like local data mode. We have the geozone and height limit of your current operating location, as well as the ability to connect to a cloud platform, whether that be Flight Hub 2 or a different server. Automated flight routes, reviewing photos, and tutorials within the Academy are all here on the home page as well. Moving into the screen here, giving you a little insight on the controls. You can see its idea here is a much cleaner interface where the zoom is built into the RC instead of having something you have to touch and try to drag on the screen itself. Also on the top here, you can tap the individual menus such as RTK or RC for additional sub-menu to pop up, but it's a cleaner interface when you're not using it. Same deal with the batteries as well. We have our camera parameters, laser rangefinder on and off, gimbal recenter actions, Flight Hub 2 connection status, and then our buttons here correspond to the command on the RC itself. Moving into the FPV view, we have our discrete mode. This icon may be updated as well. A beacon corresponding to a button, the map, and the ability to switch to the payload view from the FPV. We have our FPV view staying very similar, where you have it inspired by 6-pack from Manned Aviation, giving us key information such as altitude, wind speed, absolute altitude, max altitude you have programmed in, etc. On the thermal side, here's an example, one of those little control panels that can pop up. You see the ability to change the color palette, the ability to turn on isotherms and focus on a specific temperature range, switch the gain mode. So if we're looking at a fire, where obviously we wanted to be in a higher gain mode, assuming temperatures are reaching 500 degrees Celsius in this case, or above the low gain mode. You can switch over to side-by-side, SBS stands for that, and also complete the flat field correction there by just tapping FFC. Another option you have here is simultaneous zoom. So if you're doing these side by side, and as you zoom in the thermal camera or zoom camera, you want them both to go at the same rate, you can simply tap the simultaneous zoom button, and that will be done. The map itself adds some new features, including the topographic map, and then the ability to add both lines and polygons for line or area measurement. So if you're able to pinpoint, for example, the area of wildfire with the laser rangefinder, you can easily draw an area measurement to get an idea of what that area looks like. Or if you want to define search areas for different team members by syncing with the cloud, which we'll get into later on, everyone can be seeing the same polygon points and lines. Another option with the lines there, if you're wondering, hey, I can see something that my ground team's trying to get to, how far they are away, you can easily mark both points with a laser rangefinder, draw a line on the map, or vice versa. If you know where someone's at on the map, can simply draw the line without marking pins with the laser rangefinder. So expanded capabilities here overall with the drawing abilities in the map. Moving into the batteries and battery stations of the aircraft, looking at an upgraded 400 charge cycles here for the TB30 intelligent flight batteries, turn area lithium battery technology, 6S pack, a little over 131 watt hours and 26 volts. Still has self-heating capabilities and can self-discharge for storage. The battery station itself can charge 2 aircraft batteries, 1 RC battery, and 1 RC plus, meaning the internal battery of the RC at the same time. When charging the RC plus, that's going to be USB-C to USB-C. The aircraft batteries are charged in vertical pairs. And just to note here, the case is fairly small, so cannot transport the batteries themselves inside the case. You'd want to put those in the aircraft case, or if you had a large number, a dedicated battery case. Something to note here is the total high battery level storage, which would be the batteries at over 90%, must be less than 120 days within the 12-month warranty period. And this can be checked within the DJI Pilot app. So for example, if you sent your batteries in for a warranty issue on day 300, the team would go ahead and check how long have these batteries been stored above 90%. Up to this point, has it been over 120 days of storage at over 90%? Well, then, unfortunately, that would not be covered within warranty. But we'll say with the new battery station, we're providing multiple charge modes to make sure you can take care of your batteries the right way. We have standard mode, where each pair is charged to 100% in sequence. That's 50 minutes from 0 to 100. Ready to fly mode, where each pair is going to be charged to 90% and kept at 90%. And you can get from 20% to 90% in 30 minutes. So a good option for first responders. And then storage mode, where each pair is charged and kept at 50%. So that would be useful for long-term storage. Something to note here on the first responder side, we understand obviously that trying to keep the batteries at 100% and ready to go, but if you're able to incorporate the ability to charge within your vehicle, keeping the batteries at storage mode and maybe keeping one pair at 100%, when arriving on scene, being able to charge from 20 to 90% in 30 minutes, and that's going to be even quicker if the battery is already at 50%, you're really able to keep your batteries in a more healthier state long-term while still being ready for emergencies that may pop up. So we hope these charging modes obviously are a big help for folks in trying to properly care for their batteries. And moving into software tools with the M30 series. First one being Smart Track, where the gimbal automatically detects and follows a defined object. You can see the auto recognition happening on the screen there with vehicles, people, and boats. Can also tap and draw a rectangle when turning on Smart Track to track an object. So definitely see that used some on the inspection side where someone's moving the drone but wants to keep the camera focused on an individual component. The auto zoom function keeps the subject centered in the frame for optical viewing, and the subject position is displayed on the map in real time. Pinpoints here will cover kind of the process here and then show a quick video, but think of the pinpoint as a GPS location with lat, long, and altitude. So you can create that pinpoint either using the laser rangefinder and using the pinpoint button, or by going to the map and dropping a pinpoint, once again using the pinpoint button on a specific location. You can then view the pinpoint and its distance away from the drone. That'll be displayed on the compass, and can edit the pinpoints. You can delete them. You can change the location info within the map, or by just tapping and holding on the pin button to have the interface pop up. And then you can also customize, for example, the 5D button left, right to toggle between different pins, because whatever pin you have selected is going to be the one that shows up on the compass. So let me show that to you here in the video. So you can see the pins right now to the left of the aircraft. That dual zoom in action here, double tap to move the camera to a location, pin drop, and now you can see how the latest pin is now the selected pin because it has that square around it. The final thing would be the look at pin function. So that's in the top left here, the pin with the little eyeball in the bottom left. So we'll play this video one more time. First, showing the simultaneous zoom, because that's enabled here on the right side. Then double tapping to move the camera. Using the pin button in the bottom left of the RC, L3 to drop the pin, and then using the look at pin to move the camera back to where the pin is dropped. High-res grid photo. You're able to essentially draw a grid on your camera view. Those squares themselves each indicate an individual photo. As you can see here, this was after it's being captured. You can tap on an individual photo and see that in high resolution captured by the zoom camera. Obviously, those cells are going to get smaller as you increase the zoom and bigger as you decrease the zoom. The high-res grid can also be reviewed on a computer, or can open it directly in the RC. When you're looking at it on your computer, it's going to be in the folder as an HTML file within the high-res grid photo, or also call it super resolution as well. It has two names, so you may see SUPR super on the folder name. So opening the HTML in there, you'll be able to view this on the computer. Data security is always very important for us in our products. We'll cover log clearance, SD card encryption, and network security modes for the M30 series. First one here, once again, clicking on the security tab in the top left of the home page brings you here. You can easily clear device logs from remote controllers, payloads, or drones, and see history of log clearance. Please do note, though, if you were going to send the drone in for after-sales service and it was a warranty claim, they would need to be able to look at the logs to assess that, so wouldn't want to clear them in that case, as it would affect your after-sales service. Secondly, looking at SD card encryption, you can set a security code to prevent SD card leaks, and then either on the RC by inputting the security code that you added, you could view it, or on a Windows computer, use the DJI Decrypt tool to open the SD card, once again inputting the security code that was originally created. The idea being here, if you were to lose the drone, you don't want anyone else possibly seeing what's on that SD card. Encrypting it is a step to take that into your own hands. Network security modes here. We have our standard mode, restricted network mode, and local data mode, each being more restrictive than the last. Easy to think about local data mode as airplane mode. This has been validated by multiple folks, including FTI Consulting, that when local data mode is enabled, no data generated by the application was sent externally to infrastructure operated by any third party, including DJI. You have your restricted network mode if you want to turn on internet access for the map server, RTK, live broadcast, and then you finally have your standard mode where there's no restrictions on connecting to the network. Once again, even if you're in standard mode, there are no logs that are automatically synced. It's once again, you're going into the application itself and enabling that if you were want to use that within standard mode. See on the right side here, we're going to tap on Flight Hub. Start that over here in the top right to connect. Click on Flight Hub 2. Can select an organization and project. We'll get into that later on in regards to Flight Hub itself, but this is just showing you how easy it is to connect to a Flight Hub project within Pilot 2 on that starting screen. You can see now the project name and organization name is displayed, showing a successful connection. We'll finish up here talking about extensibility and openness of the platform itself. SDK capability, we have both MSDK and PSDK. PSDK combining both PSDK and OSDK allows free and open source development for all users. The mobile SDK 5.0 will be Android only and provide easy hands-on ability with the typical DJI trustworthy performance. You can see a few examples here taking advantage of the PSDK port, including a speaker spotlight combo, a speaker, and a spotlight. These are third-party payloads. This time we do not have any DJI specific payloads for the platform. It'll connect directly to the top of the aircraft. There's 4 screw holes on the bottom or the top front of the aircraft where these payloads can connect. We're also excited for the launch of the DJI Cloud API. I find it easiest to look at this graphic on the right. Still have the ability to do mobile SDK integration where you have the aircraft connecting to the remote controller, running a mobile SDK app, and connecting to a customized platform. What we're introducing now is the ability to use the Cloud API. So you can fly and perform operations with DJI Pilot while pushing information to a private platform. That server connection is based on Android WebView technology integrated directly into Pilot 2. So where before we were showing a connection to Flight Hub, you could instead use the Cloud API or additionally use the Cloud API for a connection. This supports the M30 Series, M300 RTK, and the DJI dock. And with that Cloud API, the real value is that there's no MSDK app development required. And moving forward, as DJI continues to build solutions, the Cloud API will continue to integrate with these enterprise aircraft. So overall, for summing up the advantages here, as you can see on the slides, complete privatization, customized support, and high compatibility moving forward with our DJI enterprise aircraft. Here's a quick summary of the M30 specs we have covered. One thing to note here is RTK capability, supports both the DRTK2 and custom network RTK. Max wind resistance, max speed, obstacle sensing, and the camera specs as well are also shown here.